The annual Catholic Appeal, One Family, Many Gifts.
I'm seminarian Frank Furman, attending the Pontifical North American College in Rome. Thanks to support from donors to the annual Catholic Appeal, our diocesan seminarians receive the training needed to prepare for this important calling to serve God's people.
The annual Catholic Appeal, One Family, Many Gifts. Please give generously in your parish or visit diospringfield.org. Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel, For God and Country, a special show dedicated to our military chaplains. This and more coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
Here again is your Reel to Reel host, Sharon Roulier.
Hello and welcome to Reel as we continue to bring you some of our best segments and programs from last season. Today our entire program focuses on Catholic military chaplains in a series of stories produced by Chaz Muth of Catholic News Service that we first aired back on November 5th, 2016. Chaplains have had a presence in the American military since the U.S. Army Chaplains Corps was established July 29, 1775. Military chaplains are commissioned officers serving in the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. The priests are basically on loan from their dioceses while they serve. Unlike traditional parish priests, most chaplains work side by side with their flock. In our first story today, we take you to boot camp.
So the first 4 weeks of their course are basically basic training. So we give them an experience in the first 4 weeks of the course of what it's like to be a young basic trainee anywhere else here in the Army or here on Fort Jackson. So we give them a little bit of flavor of that. And the real focus on those first 4 weeks is on what we call warrior tasks and battle drills. We're teaching them how to be soldiers. We begin the soldierization process with them and turning them from civilian clergy into Army chaplains. We teach them how to communicate in the Army writing style, how to write an Army memorandum, how to use the language of the Army to accomplish ministry. And that's really what it's about.
We learn a lot in these 3 months. Really, this school prepares us really well.
I think that this is very important because to be a good chaplain, that's why we have uniforms. We need to be a good soldiers as well, yeah.
What we try to impress upon them is there is an identity that is distinctive of the chaplain. And that identity is really summarized in you need to go where it sucks the most. If you're not where it sucks the most, you're probably in the wrong place. And so we really try to impress upon them that you need to be where your soldiers are. What I tell them is your sheep need to be able to recognize your walk in the dark.
Catholics make up about 1/4 of the 5 branches of the military. We make up only 8% of the chaplain corps. So there is a tremendous gap between the need for Catholic priests and their presence, their actual presence in the military.
It is tough for the military, and we could certainly use more. That means that there is a continued need for chaplains to be serving.
Father Lucas Willenberg was seen as an extraordinary priest by parishioners at St. Luke's Catholic Church in Barrington, Rhode Island, and his future looked bright within the Diocese of Providence. Providence Bishop Thomas Tobin took notice of this charismatic young Polish immigrant who seemed to excite young Catholics at his parish while endearing himself to the older parishioners as well. Father Willenberg was given the honor of serving as the bishop's master of ceremonies, in which he helped direct the clergy and laity when the leader of his diocese took part in special events. So when this gifted priest asked his bishop to be released from the diocese to serve in the U.S. Army, the prelate had a difficult decision to make, and one that he admittedly struggled with.
I remember when the first time told my bishop about the call I feel in my heart to become a chaplain, and eventually asking him to be released from the diocese for a couple of years. I met a little bit of hesitation on his side.
I didn't respond to it right away. We do have a priest shortage for sure. My primary responsibility as a bishop, of course, is to my own diocese, my own diocesan church.
Bishops need priests to run the parishes, to work in all different assignments within the diocese.
I wanted him to think about it, and I wanted to think about it myself. So we took several months to think about it before he asked me the second time. And that was the point at which we got more serious in consideration, because it is, first of all, a big step for him. You know, he's come here from Poland, but for him to go into the military service would be another big change for him. So it was a significant step for him, one that would involve his commitment for a good number of years, but also, again, a very significant sacrifice for our own diocesan church to lose the availability, the ministry of a fine young priest like Father Luke.
When a priest leaves the diocese, everyone feels the impact. Beginning with the local parish that young man was a part of, people really get attached to their priest.
He doesn't feel like a priest. It feels like you're talking to a friend, which I think makes it a lot easier, and he is really good at tying your faith into it without kind of feeling like, oh, I'm talking to a priest. Like he feels like just a normal guy.
When a man leaves to go into extraordinary ministry, it's felt first at the parish level, it's also felt at the diocesan level, it's felt among the presbyterate, the brother priests that he has. Everyone feels it in a particular way.
You know, there are people from Rhode Island who are in the military. And so the idea of, I think, a bishop giving up someone to the military ordinariate is, you know, just a kind of recognizing that he wants to be of service to his people as those people go on and move on into service-related positions, you know, all over the world.
But that's a challenge I think a bishop often has to face, trying to balance the needs of the local diocesan church while also recognizing the fact that we are always part of something larger, and we have some obligations to the universal church as well, whether it's in military service or releasing a priest to serve in a seminary community somewhere or to do some missionary work. But that's a tough decision sometimes, and something we have to think about and pray about very carefully.
It took some prayer and some convincing to actually convince him to the point when he said, yes, you can start pursuing that call. I know that you are serious about it, and I believe that's where God wants you to be at this part of your life.
Bless the chosen shrine, wherein the architect divine, whose hand contains the earth and sky.
Instead of wearing the traditional black clerics, a Catholic military chaplain often sports fatigues, a camouflage helmet, and even sometimes a contraption strapped to his back that will release a parachute after he jumps out of a military aircraft. This is all part of the job, they say, as they strive to become one with those they serve.
I would say that being a chaplain is very much so in line with what our Holy Father Pope Francis is talking about, getting out and smelling like your sheep. The Chaplain Corps has been pushing its chaplains to get out of their offices and to go out and to be in and among their troops, their airmen, their soldiers. And so when Pope Francis starts talking that way, you know, we were joking whether or not he got that from us or we got that from him.
That's probably a very good analogy that military chaplains do respond to Francis' call to smell like the sheep, because an effective chaplain is going to be where his soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, or coasties are. He's going to be with them.
I have to live the life of the people that I serve. And my credibility rests on that very fact, that wherever that unit, that command that I'm assigned to goes, I go. Whatever training they do, I do. Whether they're sent to combat, I go. Whether they're sent to some humanitarian operations, I'm there. Day in and day out, especially in war, we're there. And the chaplain, as example for Christians, goes to be present to the people, to become one of them, makes us effective and gives us entrance into the lives of those we serve.
Still being fairly young and being able to keep up with the soldiers I'm serving with, I think makes the ministry even more powerful. Sometimes during the rock march, sometimes during PT or after PT, sometimes waiting on the harness shed as we waiting to jump or waiting on the drop zone for the buses to pick us up. And there'll be situations when I'm approached by the paratrooper or soldier saying, "Chaplain, I would like to talk." And those, most of the time, are quite powerful conversations. And it's truly humbling to be an instrument in God's hands in those conversations and provide different outlook, provide motivation, provide maybe not a solution, but pointing them into the right direction when it comes to making life-changing decisions on different issues.
You know, as a parish priest, you know your parishioners, but you know, you're not sleeping in the same tent with them, you're not sharing the same risks as them, whereas in the Army, you know, you get to know them even before the deployment begins. You're doing the same exercises that they're doing, you're going to PT with them, you're getting to know them on a much more personal level. When you have the kid who is agnostic or atheist, but who is in a hurry to introduce their parents to you when their parents come to visit before deployment and say, "Mom, Dad, meet Chaplain Lawrence, he's my chaplain," then you've arrived. And so I think in that way it is very different because you have a shared experience. And I would say that shared experience is amplified when combat is involved.
Amazing. These priests are definitely taking Pope Francis's call to provide a fraternal and comforting presence to those who they serve in the armed forces. And remember, you can support their work by donating to this weekend's special collection for the Military Archdiocese. And we have much more still to come on this special edition of Real to Real, including a look at how chaplains serve military families and their mission to provide a trusting, listening ear, and a look at a chaplain museum. All still to come on Real to Real.
Your glory fills.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy days and join us Sunday morning at 10. We welcome Bishop Mitchell Rosansky as our Mass presider and celebrate the Feast of the Transfiguration of the Lord. The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10, right here on TV 22 News.
Springfield Diocesan Cemeteries now offer above-ground entombment at 2 locations in Springfield, St. Michael's and Gate of Heaven cemeteries. Both Catholic mausoleums are open daily from 8:30 to 3:30. For more information or an appointment with our Family Counseling Office, call 413-733-6019. That's 413-733-6019.
Butcher, baker, candlestick maker, I didn't care what they grew up to be as long as they were happy. To give up marriage and children just seems like too much to walk away from.
He seems to think he's making a real difference in people's lives, and he's so happy. Isn't that what's most important?
I never would have imagined our son as a Catholic priest.
The annual Catholic Appeal, One Family, Many Gifts.
I'm Dave Picard from the Take and Eat program. Thanks to the annual Catholic Appeal, for the past 14 years, we have been able to provide 500,000 weekend meals to the homebound and the elderly across Western Massachusetts.
The annual Catholic Appeal, One Family, Many Gifts. Please give generously in your parish or visit diospringfield.org.
3 things to tell you about today: a great musical, a great movie, and a great play. Welcome to this week's Real Culture.
Oklahoma with the wind comes sweeping down the plain.
Are you ready for a grand old time? A musical filled with great music, an old-fashioned love story, and some of the greatest dance numbers ever to hit the stage? Well, look no further than Oklahoma, now playing at the Goodspeed Opera House in East Haddam, Connecticut. This rich, colorful musical has everything a great musical needs, except a great storyline. A fight? About who will take a farm girl to a box social? Okay, maybe a little dated, but that's not the real reason to go. The reason to go is to hear those great Rodgers and Hammerstein musical treats, like Oh What a Beautiful Morning and People Will Say We're in Love, and of course the title song.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day.
This musical was a landmark in 1943, and it's back till September 23rd. Don't miss the color, the music, and the fun. Something wonderful is now on stage in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. The great American classic play Arsenic and Old Lace. The play that was written in the 1940s gives us a night of big laughs and fine performances. The super talented Tony winner Harriet Harris and the great stage actress Tony nominee Melinda Dillon take this play to a new level of true comedy as they tell us the story of the Brewster sisters. Director Greg Edelman has done a fine job of making this play flow with great ease. This is not easy because it's a long play, but in Edelman's talented hands, it's a night of pure delight. It's there till August 19th. Don't miss this classic comedy.
The call went out. We have to go to Dunkirk.
Okay, I'm going to say it. Dunkirk is a great movie, pure and simple. Director Christopher Nolan's retelling of the classic war story is both gritty and perfect. The story is based on the 300,000 troops that were stranded on the beach in Dunkirk, France in 1940. The film makes you stop and think about what these young men did and how they put their lives on the line for the rest of the world. This is an epic film, yet not overblown. So hats off to great directing. Yes, it's only August, but Oscar may be on its way for this great film. Bravo.
You're weekend sailors, not the bloody Navy. You should be at home. There's no hiding from this, son. We have a job to do.
And you can see my reviews, as well as read other movie reviews, provided by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops online at iobserve.org. That's iobserve.org. And on a personal level, I would like to thank the many viewers who have written me letters and cards about how much they enjoy the Real Culture segment. It means a lot to us here on Real Culture. Next time we meet, the best of the summer. What were the top movies? What were the top plays? And what does the fall look like? I'm Mark Giza for Real Culture. Have a fantastic weekend.
Returning now to our series of special reports highlighting the work of the military archdiocese and chaplains, frequent deployment often required members of the military to be away from their families, sometimes for a year at a time. Jennifer Seacrest figures that her husband's absence from the family totaled about 5 years in all. The Seacrest situation is common among military families, making the presence of the chaplain that much more important. The military chaplain helps families with unique challenges that don't necessarily impact most people in civilian parishes.
When you're a military chaplain, you are going to be dealing with some unique challenges that families in a civilian parish are not dealing with.
There's a cliche out there that, you know,
The military didn't issue you a family. Now, it is challenging because you're a servant to your country and you're a servant to your family, and you have to balance those two things together. So I think that just taking care of a family while you're going about all the things that you do in the military, whether that's moving, the long hours, the deployments, etc., that's what makes it challenging.
13 moves in 24 years, almost 24 years. That's a lot of moves. Picking up and moving from my house is not hard. Picking up and leaving friends never gets easy. We say goodbye to a lot of people. We'll be married 24 years in October. He has been to Iraq and to Korea and other tours or things. And so in 24 years, he's been gone almost 5.
When you're getting ready to be gone for a year, you'll find yourself that the home environment becomes a little more tense. It's like a natural, I don't want to be too close to you right now because I'm getting ready to go somewhere for a year.
And then there's, always going to be issues with essentially a single parent raising kids. Even though they're not a single parent, they might as well be when their spouse is out in the field.
There's a lot of help out there with the military. There are your friends. The church is what I always fell to or would go to. The church has helped in living with my family. It's always been the constant. It's the normalcy of the crazy life that we tend to lead in the military. It's just normal to me. It's home to me.
And you come home and that first day is sort of like that. Oh, it's just so awesome. Just hugging them and everything, talking, seeing them in person, and it's great. What happens is over the course of that year, folks have been doing things, your wife, a lot of things that you used to do that you had agreed upon she was going to take care of while you're gone. You come home and you want to start helping and you start, integrating back in. Well, it doesn't actually work like that because now they're uncomfortable because you're kind of getting in their way with stuff.
It's not to hurt him or belittle him, but it's much easier to do it myself than to sit and explain it and make a list.
And so there's always communication issues, I think. And so, the Chaplain Corps here, we do a lot of programs just to help couples learn to communicate better and to help families communicate better.
So I've learned to take the time and make the list and explain it to him because he appreciates it a lot better to be a part of the family instead of watching the family.
My job as chaplain is still to be with them, to listen to them. Sometimes it's as a counselor, sometimes it's as just a shoulder they can cry on, sometimes it's someone to whom they can turn when they don't know where to go. And I might have to be the third party perspective just to listen unbiasedly and to then maybe make recommendations of talk to this agency or that agency. We have over 100 helping agencies in the United States Air Force that are designed to keep our airmen and our families fit.
We just simply wouldn't be the same in a bad way. We would not be the same had we not had that support that the church gives us.
The origin of the name Chaplain is derived from the relic cape, Kappa in Latin, of St. Martin of Tours, a 2nd century bishop who is said to have used his military sword to cut his cloak in 2, giving half of it to warm a shivering beggar. Eventually, all clergy affiliated with the military were referred to as capellani, translated into French as chaplains, and then English as chaplain. The history of the chaplaincy in the United States is almost as old as this country. The first thing that George Washington asked the Continental Congress for was the provision for chaplains. A museum dedicated to chaplains chronicles their history and their mission to minister to all denominations.
The U.S. Army Chaplain Corps Museum is a military history museum, and we tell the history of the United States Army Chaplain Corps, to include chaplains and chaplain assistants. We began with, of course, Martin of Tours, where we get the origin of the word chaplain. Of course, the Revolutionary War, and it's laid out by major military conflicts: Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War I, and it all goes all the way to current, to modern times. The early beginnings of the Chaplain Corps during the Revolutionary War, of course, was predominantly a Protestant corps. There was one Catholic chaplain who served. He was French-Canadian. When Benedict Arnold invaded Canada, he joined their cause and came back to America with them, and he was well over 60 years of age and served most of the war, so he's known as our first Catholic chaplain. The first Catholics to be commissioned would be in the 1850s. The hospital exhibit in our World War I section shows a chaplain ministering to a wounded soldier. Not only does it show the chaplain caring for that soldier, but it also displays that a chaplain will minister to all soldiers, regardless of denomination. He may or may not know the denomination of the soldier he's ministering to, but it doesn't matter. They're there to help all soldiers spiritually. Some of our more highly honored chaplains, such as our Medal of Honor recipients, we actually had 3 that were Roman Catholic priests. Our latest to be honored with the Medal of Honor was a Korean War era chaplain named Neil Kapan. Well, he found himself in a battle situation, and he stayed with the wounded. He didn't leave them, and he was captured. In a POW camp, he tried to help other soldiers there that he thought were worse off than himself. He virtually starved himself to death. He's been declared a servant of God. His paperwork is at the Vatican now for review. So he, along with a Navy chaplain, Vincent Capodanno, are our 2 military chaplains that are up for sainthood. There are several stories throughout the museum that show the compassion and the willingness of chaplains to stay with their soldiers. They nurture the living, care for the wounded, and they honor the dead.
The Diocese of Springfield has proudly provided military chaplains over the years. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Thanks to Catholic News Service and producer Chaz Muth for this wonderful series. Also, we want to send out very special birthday greetings to our own Bishop, Mitchell Rosansky, who is celebrating his birthday tomorrow, August 6th, along with the 3rd anniversary as Bishop of our Diocese of Springfield. The Bishop will be celebrating the Chalice of Salvation Mass tomorrow morning, right here at 10 a.m. on WWLP TV 22. As always, to keep up with all of the latest news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, you can check out our news and information site, iobserve.org. That's iobserve.org. Also, friend us on Facebook at Catholic Communications. I will see you right here next week at this same time for another Summer Best of edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Enjoy your week.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.